Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
You are listening to the FinFans podcast, where
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
discuss everything Miami Dolphins. It's the off season, and we're looking forward to a fresh new start under different management in 2026. We hope you'll join us and enjoy the show. And it is another FinFans podcast. With me today is Lewis and Chris Ragone. How are you, Chris?
Doing good, Mike. I'm doing good.
Welcome back, Lewis.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. For a short time.
So, here we go, right? It's that time. Football is finally happening. Tuesday, the Veterans Report, and training camp begins for real.
Hell yeah.
You know, the rookies are in now, but this is when it really starts. And you got to be excited to see how this team progresses from here, how they gel together, and, which of the young guys are going to make an impact and all that type of thing. They did sign Jordan Brooks, which is probably the biggest news since we were on last. Chris, you want to talk about that?
Yep. This is something we've been talking about all offseason. I think this was the last domino to fall as far as veterans who needed extensions, and we got it done. Got it done with Achane. We got it done with Brewer, and Brooks was the last piece of that. And it's interesting, too, because in Sullivan's opening presser, those three guys he named as like the pillars or building blocks or guys that they can build around. And we still weren't sure if they were going to sign any of these three to contract extensions. So for the fact that they signed all of them, I think that's promising for these rookies. I think it's promising going forward for free agents, after this season and the off season, that, okay, these guys take care of their own when they earn it. So that was good to see. Number-wise, it was a 3-year, $51.3 million extension. That'll have him with the Dolphins through the 2029 season, and the deal features $35 million in total guaranteed money and an average annual salary of $17 million. So, even though we're pretty loaded at that inside linebacker position, they felt this guy was definitely worth just not what he brings on the field, but off the field as a veteran leader. And, I think he's going to be a captain for as long as he's a Dolphin. So I'm excited about it. The money, 3 years, $35 million guaranteed. I mean, it's not a boatload of money, but definitely is a nice chunk. But, like I said, I think the guy's worth it. He's coming off an all-pro season, and, I'm excited to see him and Jacob Rodriguez and the rest of that group, how they play this year, because they are going to have their hands full.
Yeah, you said something interesting among the things that you said in regard to this. You said, they're taking care of their own. The interesting thing about that comment is that they weren't their own, right? They came in here and technically, they could have cleaned house. They could have got draft picks and just started right from ground zero. But instead, they understand that these guys are guys that are fantastic football players, something that our former regime, they made a lot of good players walk. When we talked, there was a lot of people, including somebody very close to us, that said they probably wouldn't be able to get everybody's contract done because of the money situation. And we watched teams over and over and over again sign the guys that they need to sign. Somehow, some kind of way they get it done. Well, we've done that. And on top of that, we brought in a quarterback that should be a really, really good piece of this puzzle going forward. So, the objectives, if as you check them off, money, right? They were able to do what they needed to do with the money that they had. They got a quarterback in here that we're excited about. They signed the 3 guys you mentioned, and they let a lot of what I would say, yeah, I can't really, I shouldn't really say this, but they got rid of players that they needed to get rid of in the process. And I'll just leave it at that without, saying too much more. So every objective has been checked off, literally in months. I mean, when did these guys get hired? Right after the season started, basically?
Yeah, they started their search after the season.
Yeah, I mean, so they're half a year into their regime, and they've done literally right down the list of objectives. They pretty much got everything done that they needed to get done. And as you mentioned, Chris, you're excited about the Brooks signing. Achane staying with the team, Brewer staying with the team. I mean, those guys, are basically, like you said, going to be the building blocks. You can build upon that foundation. And, I love it. It's another fantastic move for the organization as far as I'm concerned. It's something that, Dolphin fans should be excited about going into this new season.
Yeah, this is the move I really wasn't sure they were going to make because of his age. He's 29 years old.
Right.
But I'm glad they did because he's a fantastic leader. He's a great linebacker, and he's the type of player you want in the middle of your defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look at it, right? The guys that, that are here now, that are your veteran players, right? You got Brewer on the offense, at that center position, sort of the quarterback there, on the offensive side. And then you got Brooks on the defensive side that's sort of your quarterback. So, I mean, they've done a lot of good things. And Achane, is just a superstar as far as I'm concerned. So, it's just, it was the thing to do, and I think going forward, it's just smart moves across the board. And I think you're going to continue to see smart moves across the board. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised with this football team, halfway through the season, because you do have veterans. The offense is, if the receivers, any of them step forward, I think they're going to be pleasantly surprising, on that side of the football. I think they're going to be a nice offense. So
I think the offense is going to have to carry the team this year if they can.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with you, Mike. But you know what? Good coaching and a couple of surprises, who knows, halfway through the season. I mean, with all the guys they're throwing up against the wall on the defensive side, you may very well see them surprising. Some of the rookies step up. Grant steps up, from that defensive tackle position. And, all of a sudden you've got, at least a decent defense, and that's, that's what we want to see. We want to see something that we can build upon going into going into the 2027 season.
Yeah, and even at age 29 too, I feel like middle linebacker is one of those positions where, you look at a guy like Bobby Wagner, who is currently looking for a team right now. But, I mean, he's 35, 36 years old, and every season he plays, he is top 5 in tackles. So I think Brooks is one of those guys that takes his body and his diet and all that stuff pretty serious. So even though he's 29, we can still see him at 32, 33 still playing at a pretty high level. So I think that's something, too, that they were looking at, like, all right, let's get this done and keep this guy in the building. I mean, especially when you see how he reacted when we signed Jacob Rodriguez, how fired up he was. I mean, sometimes vets his age, they look at that like, oh, they're drafting my replacement, and they feel some type of way. But just hearing him, how fired up he was when he called Jacob Rodriguez, that those are the guys that you have to keep around, to show these young bucks how it's done. Because, we went from being one of the oldest teams in the league to probably being a top 3 youngest. So,
yeah.
You can't just have a bunch of rookies and second year and third year players running around. You need vets in the locker room. And I feel like I said that at the beginning of this offseason before we let Tyreek and Waddle and Tua and all these guys. And, I said you can't get rid of everybody. And, we got rid of a lot of guys, but I think we kept the ones that will make an impact going forward for sure.
Yeah, the guys you mentioned, Chris, I never considered them good leaders, the 3 guys you mentioned. I just
Agreed.
didn't. I just didn't. I didn't look at them in that way at any point during their careers. I think Tyreek was a selfish player. It was me. That's not a good leader. Waddle, followed right behind Tyreek. He was never a leader. He was always, his right-hand guy, always around him. Don't think he was a great influence on him, but, it is what it is. And Tua, just always seemed to, be lost at times. I'd never, there was a stretch where it looked like he was, calling plays and, he had a lot of confidence, but it was only for a very short time. That came and went very quickly over his career here. So,
Yeah, I meant more like guys like Chubb and Minka,
those
weren't
guys.
The most
Minka was a good
vocal
leader.
guys, but they, they
And
led
Chubb,
by
I think,
example. Chubb was a high character guy. I didn't have any issues with him. I mean, obviously we were a little upset at the compensation we gave up to get him, but once he got in the building, I mean, him and Phillips, I love those two, watching them feed off of each other, and it's just a shame that either of them couldn't stay healthy. But Phillips, I'll be rooting for. He got a nice contract in Carolina. Chubb with the Bills, I won't be rooting for him, but. He's still, I enjoyed listening to his interviews and just the way he talks about preparing and, that type of stuff.
Right.
He's a good player. I mean, he didn't have a great performance here, but he's still a good player.
Yeah.
I didn't mind Chubb. I know Lewis, you at times had problems with him, but.
Well, I mean, I had problems with him, Mike, because every time I think of him, I think of, the missed opportunities where he was there and didn't bring him down. When I think of Phillips, I think of the same exact thing. Opportunities and games that, probably could have been changed by, just pulling the quarterback down. We talked about that, pressures week in and week out. Yeah, well, Phillips had 6 but how many sacks did he have? Finish the job.
Yeah.
You're getting there, but you're not completing the job. And I loved Phillips, and Chubb, I had a problem with him from Jump Street because of, the big contract and what we gave up to get him. I felt we overpaid for him, and then we overpaid him once we got him here.
But that's not his fault.
No, it's not his fault, Mike, but the guy that did all that, I had a major problem with too, but
exactly.
If you're going to do those sort of things, then damn it, you got to step up and you got to play like that type of guy,
And I love these contracts that they're handing out. They are absolutely team friendly, and they're also player friendly, and that's how it should be.
Yeah.
110%. I mean, and you could, as you go down the list of checkpoints, Mike, checking the boxes, there's another box you can check. They're not overpaying guys. They're being fair. And I just don't understand that, how, us as fans recognize this for years, but yet people that are running a professional organization, didn't see what we saw over and over and over again. Just didn't make smart moves, extending guys instead of just letting them play out and seeing how things unfold. Just mistake after mistake. So, I'm ecstatic about this coming football season. I mean, we're weeks away now from actually seeing football.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to take a step back for just a couple minutes, and we'll be right back.
Weeks away, right? When's the first exhibition game?
I don't have the date in front of me, but I think it's a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, don't they have a Hall of Fame game coming up?
Yep.
When I'll be up there in Canton.
No, we're in the Hall of Fame game this year.
No, we're not. But
you're talking about
football in general is what I'm talking about. It's I believe next weekend, right? Not this coming weekend, the following weekend. So we're basically 2 weeks away from actually seeing professional football, and I'm excited. I'll be going up to Canton. I'll be going to the Hall of Fame and visiting that for the first time. So I'm a little jacked up. That's right before the ceremony.
That's August 6th.
August 6th. Yep. There we go. I will actually be up there August 6th.
Yeah, that is next week. Wow. And then the Dolphins' first preseason game is, we're recording this on a Sunday. It's 2 weeks from this Friday. So on August 14th. Yeah, August 14th.
So 2 weeks from this past Friday, right? Mm-hmm. Is what you're saying?
Yep. No. 2 weeks from, because it's Sunday now, so 2 weeks from this coming.
No, 3 weeks from this past Friday, the Friday that just passed.
I didn't say this past Friday. I said the Friday coming up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I missed that. Excuse me.
Well, there'll be, scrimmages between now and then.
Yep. There's a bunch of reporters talking about how great a guy looks in practice every day with no pads on and, 8-on-8s or whatever they are, 7-on-7. What are they? 7-on-7s, 8-on-8s. So, I mean, it's here now. So it is exciting. And I can't, this is the most excited I've been about this Miami Dolphin football team in years. I mean, years. It's been a long time. So let's get to it.
They needed a new coat of paint, and that's exactly what they did. This is a pretty serious rebuild. I mean, most teams don't go to this extent.
Yeah, speaking of that too, were you done, Mike, or did you have?
No, go ahead.
So what's interesting is, I know it's football, but it's not, player related. On the NFL Shop and Fanatics, they brought back Stitch jerseys, and every team besides us and it was one other team, the Saints, did not get those. And the speculation on that is that we might be switching uniforms next year, which I think this fan base and even the players have been asking for a while. So
the throwbacks.
Well, I don't know about the throwbacks, but maybe bringing some of the throwback ideas, but putting a new twist on it, which is what a lot of teams are doing. So The reason why we didn't get those Stitch jerseys is because they have to get rid of all the prior
inventory
and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think that would be perfect for the new regime. I know it's not a huge thing. It doesn't really matter as far as what on-field things, but I think we can all agree on that these are our worst uniforms that we've had in the franchise history. So
yeah, that'd be super cool. I would love to see that, some sort of incorporation of the throwbacks. Those are phenomenal. They were phenomenal uniforms, the aqua and orange.
Yeah.
They were cool. They were super cool. I love when they wear them.
Yeah, so anytime we rock the throwbacks, it's always a cool thing. We will be wearing the white throwbacks against the Bears at home on December 13th.
The Bears.
And then, interesting enough, I thought the rivalries jerseys were just a one-year thing. And they announced that we will be wearing those on January 3rd against the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I think the rivalries, they're releasing, 7, 8 more teams.
I think it's just one division each year.
Yeah, in each conference, though. AFC and NFC, yes.
I think so.
And some of the teams aren't doing it, which is interesting. It's really weird. Some of the teams in the divisions just decline to do it, and I don't know why, but it is what it is. But So every year, and then once they're released, Chris, I think that they can wear them anytime they'd like to.
Yeah, I'm a fan of them, and I'm happy that they're wearing them again, because the game from last year that we wore them, all I remember is Tyreek Hill going down with that nasty injury.
Yep.
And it's funny because I'm pretty big into like the collecting like the football cards and stuff, and there's so many cards of him in that jersey, and I'm like, well, how would they make those cards with him like that? He didn't even get to play. And speaking of Tyreek Hill, I mean, he came out, I watched the video recently, and he said he still doesn't have any power in his left leg. So that's interesting, man. I mean, we may not ever see him again, and if we do see him this year, it probably won't be till the end. So it's just,
I would think he would be better off, personally, taking the year off.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and he can come back. Somebody will give him an opportunity, and I'm sure he'll, he won't be the player he once was, but I'm sure he'd still be productive to some extent. As a guy that comes in, as third receiver and passing situations and stuff like that. I don't think we've seen the end of him. I think that out of necessity, he's gonna need to play football. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna need money, and he's gonna work his ass off to get to where he needs to get to, and he'll be playing somewhere. Maybe in the USFL. I don't think
he needs money. He's pretty friggin' rich.
Yeah, he got a nice contract. I just think him being 30 years old, and it's not like he just tore his ACL. Like, he tore a few ligaments in that knee, and guys who rely on speed, once they lose that half a step that they have on everybody,
right?
Tyreek's not a great route runner. He doesn't have great hands. He was pretty reliant on that speed. So, I think he can come back and, like you said, be, still
somewhat productive.
Yeah, somewhat productive. But I just, I think that injury, I mean, he was saying in that video that the doctor told him that he may never walk again or something like that. So it was,
he's walking.
It was pretty significant. Yeah, no, I mean, he's doing more than walking now, but he was saying that that's what the doctor told him initially when he suffered the injury. So
I thought the same thing. I mean, he really
nasty.
wrecked that leg.
Yeah, it was nasty.
He'll be back, guys. I'm telling you, lawsuits and divorces and stuff like that. Trust me when I tell you, Mike. I mean, he made a lot of money, but a lot of money goes right back out the window, especially when you're
an idiot.
When I
shouldn't
not,
say that, but when
you're
you
not
have
being
the problems
responsible. But you keep dishing out money, and it goes quickly. So.
Yeah.
He'll be. I'm certain that somehow, some kind of way, he'll be playing football somewhere. But with all that being said, we, I was looking at the wide receiver situation real quick. I don't want to go in another direction, but my God, they're talking about. Weiss and guys like that, just being a starter on this football team. So, I mean, it's a lot of guys getting thrown up against the wall, like I talked about.
That's exactly what it is.
It'd be nice if, a couple of these guys just develop into, really good receivers, among that group. I'm kind of interested, can't say I'm really excited, but I'm interested in seeing, what develops among.
Yeah, do we have a legitimate number one receiver in that group? I would think not, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, who do you think, I'll ask both of you guys, if there was a guy, I mean, because I have a guy in mind, and I'm sure you guys are going to say the same thing, that, that could develop into that number one. Chris?
Yeah, for me, it's Chris Bell. And
yeah.
Unfortunately, I think they just put him on, the PUP, Mike?
Yeah, which means he's got to miss what?
Nothing yet. I mean, if they put him on that to start the season, I think then, or if they don't activate him off of that by the start of the season, then I think it's the first 4 games, Mike, right?
I think so. Yeah.
But I mean, you're seeing guys like
they put him. What is it? The NFI list? I forget the name of it, but it's basically a non-football injury designation.
Right.
Because he didn't get hurt in the NFL. He got hurt prior.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It's just like the PUP. The rules are pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think something that benefits him too is the fact that, the knee injuries aren't quite what they used to be. When somebody suffered an ACL, you wouldn't see him for at least a year. I mean, you look at the situation going on in Kansas City, and Andy Reid came out and said the other day that Patrick Mahomes is fully cleared to get back to football activity, which is crazy because he tore his at the end of the season last year, and he's a lot older than Chris Bell. So, I mean, that gives me room for optimism. But aside from him, I mean, you got to say Malik Washington. I mean, he's the vet. He's been here the longest now. And, we've been waiting to see him take that next step. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for him. So I would go with, I mean, I don't know if he can turn into a number one, like Lou just asked, but I think Chris Bell and Malik Washington could be the most productive receivers when we look at the end of the season.
Mike?
It's going to be interesting. I agree with you, Lewis. I do think that Chris Bell is probably the guy who's going to be the number one once he gets healthy. Until then, it's on Malik's shoulders, I think.
Yeah, I agree totally with we're all on the same page.
I don't know if Malik is worthy of that, but we'll see.
Well, Malik is a guy that, he's great to watch once he has the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
I love to see him get the ball, 70, 80 times this year, and I'm sure he's going to get targeted a lot. But, Chris, going back to you mentioning Mahomes, he's a different animal altogether. His work ethic and what he does to get himself back on the football field is something that, you don't see in every individual. I mean, I'm sure is up 4 or 5 in the morning every day. If you watch that quarterback show, when he got hurt that year, and they, what he did to get back on the field, what was it, like a week later or 2 weeks later, after they thought he was going to be out for a while, was just incredible. I mean, the guy is a different type of human being when it comes to work ethic. And, it doesn't surprise me that he's back that soon. Let's hope that Bell, has that sort of work ethic and, works his way back as much as he possibly can. And, we see him on the field sooner than later.
That is one area, we talked about Tyreek Hill, and that's one area where he excels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
So if anybody can come back from what he had, it's him. But,
right.
These are serious injuries. And the ACL, I think it depends on the position you play. If you're a wide receiver or a running back, or a cornerback, I think it takes a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a quarterback or somebody a lineman, I think they can get over it quicker because they're not relying on speed and
cuts as much.
Exactly.
And everything. It's the game of football. It's just one little misstep, and it's I mean, we've seen guys. I mean, how many times did we see Phillips just basically take a step and and he was done. We watched Marino when he tore his Achilles. I mean, it wasn't anything special.
Oh.
That it was just
he just hit a soft spot of turf, and that was it.
That's all it takes. I mean, the human body, boy, I'll tell you what, it wasn't made to get pounded as they do in the NFL, and the speed and the tenacity that these guys play at now in the NFL is at an all-time high. I mean, these guys work out 12 months a year, as compared to the guys back in the day that had off-season jobs. They did something else in the off-season, and then they came in the training camp
because they didn't make enough money playing football.
Exactly. So the NFL is it's a business. The players treat it as a business. Their bodies are what's gonna make them their money.
Their bodies are their tool.
Their bodies are their tool in life, exactly, and it's a very short lifespan. So they basically do everything they possibly can for that short amount of time in their life to get to a certain position. So, but the game's brutal, and it doesn't take much to get hurt. So I applaud guys that are on the field game in and game out. It's amazing how some guys can just be in that situation. Other guys are constantly hurt, right? I mean, it's just funny how that all works, right?
And that brings me to Kuchenberg. I'm still pissed he's not in the Hall of Fame, because that guy, he would play through injury. He would do whatever he needed to do to help his team win.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, it's interesting you bring Kuchenberg up, because the offensive line, it's not the glamour position. There's a guy named George Kuntz who played for the Falcons and the Colts in the 70s. He was an 8-time Pro Bowl player over that decade, and he's still not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, so 8 times. He was an 8-time Pro Bowl. Every single year, he was one of the best offensive linemen in football, and still not in the Hall of Fame. So, the offensive line kind of gets looked over quite a bit. And Kuchenberg is really, really going to have a very difficult time, in my eyes, getting in. I'm not saying he's not deserving, but, with the way it's all,
once you hit that senior committee, it's a lot tougher to get in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's his only path to that now. So, it's possible, but it's going to be tough. There's no question about that.
And I think Richmond Webb has the same issue.
Webb, I think, has a little bit more of. I think Webb's going to get in, Mike.
I hope so.
I think he'll get in. Yeah, he's going to get recognized at some point and get in, because he was probably the best offensive tackle, or at least top 2 for a good while.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys. That's
Chris.
all we got.
Chris?
Yep, that's all I got. I mean, the last thing I do have is what's interesting about not just Chris Bell, they placed Daryl Baker Jr. and Storm Duck on the active PUP.
Yeah.
And for Storm Duck, for me, that's a little concerning, because he suffered his injury way before, the end of the season, or even the middle. It was at the beginning of last year. So, I mean, if he's still not doing any type of football activity, I think we're going to see a lot of Juju Brent, Chris Johnson, and these other guys, Bonner and all these other corners. So that's going to be interesting to see, but we'll see how that plays out.
Voodoo Juju.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining me this morning, and thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week, and until then, fins up.
Fins up.
Fins up, Dolphins.
Hey guys, this is Mike again, breaking in for a second just to ask a favor of you. We would like to request that you go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review and rate the show. Let us know how we're doing. We'd very much appreciate it. Thank you, and fins up. And that's the end of another show. I want to thank the Believe Network for allowing us to join them this year, and the Dolphins Talk Network, who we've been a part of for many years. I want to thank both of these outfits. They're exceptional people, and we're proud and honored just to be a part of it. Until next time, take care.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.